And now, to better understand the situation in Syria, its impact in the region, and what we can expect in the coming hours, we welcome our correspondent in Turkey, Yunus Soner. Hello, Yunus. Thank you for joining us, and tell us, what do you consider are the key elements to understand the latest developments in Syria?
Hello, good afternoon. Belen from here, from Istanbul, Turkey, the neighboring country to the Syrian Arab Republic. Turkey is watching very closely the events unfolding in Syria. Right now, we have the situation in Damascus of a certain calm, despite, as your report mentioned, some lootings of embassies and also government buildings. We saw footage of the central bank being looted by armed terrorist groups, but there is a balance that has been stuck between the former and still Prime Minister Mohammed al-Jalali on the one side, who has been recognized by the leading terror group present in Damascus, Hayat Tahrir Sham, whose leader Mohammed al-Golani said that this prime minister will remain in office until a transition has been completed. So this is the current political situation. The whereabouts about Mr. President Bashar al-Assad are not known. The Russian Foreign Ministry has stated he has left the country, but this has not been confirmed. And the ministry also stated that there had been a negotiation between President Assad and Syrian political circles for a transition, for a peaceful transition of power to the new government. That was the condition on which President Assad left his position at this final days of these rebel or terrorist offensive that occurred since November 27. On the other hand, the country is still facing clashes. Most importantly, they are coming from the Golan Heights. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited the Syrian-Israeli border, the Golan Heights, occupied by Israel, and he said, this is a historic day. This is the result of our attacks, of Israeli attacks on Iran, on Hezbollah. These have caused the Assad government to fall. And his ministers also demanded that Israel establishes a buffer zone deeper than it already is, advancing further into Syrian territory towards the capital of Damascus. And in fact, the Israeli army has already stated that units had been mobilized. Meanwhile, Israeli Air Force has been today, on this Sunday, been bombing Syrian army positions, Syrian army airports, both close to the Golan Heights as well as far east in the country around the river of Euphrates, where close to the Iraqi border. So we have on the one side this Israeli tension, this Israeli offensive or aggression going on, and it had been going on through the last months. Israel has frequently bombed Syrian military installations, Syrian radar bases. So this is something that military experts have to have in mind when discussing how did it happen that the Syrian army was weak to defend against this terrorist offensive. Actually, it has not only been under terrorist attack, but also under continuous Israeli attack. On the other side, we have a complicated situation in the north of Syria, close to the Turkish border, where the so-called Syrian National Army, this is a militia supported by Turkey, is trying to advance an offensive against the region controlled by the Syrian Democratic Forces. The village is called Manbij, and here the Syrian National Army, the so-called Syrian National Army, is trying to attack this region and get it. Some declarations were made that 80% of Manbij have been under control, but this has not been confirmed yet. The Syrian Democratic Forces have established a Kurdish autonomous region in the east of Euphrates, and the US representatives stated that they will defend and cooperate with these against a possible resurgence of ISIS here and also to defend this region. So there is another complex situation. And another complex situation we have on the coast of the Mediterranean around the city of Latakia. This is a hometown of the Alawi population, which has been very supportive of the Assad government traditionally. And today we have received that fighters of the Hayat Tahrir Sham, which is an Islamist, Sunni Islamist terror organization, have entered the city of Latakia. So there is also a tense situation whether there will be a kind of clashes between the population and the terrorists entering the town. Until now, no such reports have emerged. Until now, we see, especially in the Western press, clear intention to maquillaje, as we say in Spanish, or to present a new makeup for this terror group as tolerant, as understanding, as caring for minorities. This is also supported by their statements. But we have to remember that this is not a chain and command group. This is not a strictly organized entity. This is more a grouping of individuals, partly paid, partly ideologically confined to each other, but very loose organization. So their behavior is also posing a danger to the general population, which might be the reason why their leader Golani has announced a curfew in Damascus from today 4 o'clock in the afternoon until 5 o'clock in the morning, as he also prohibited, he felt the need to do so, any looting of government institutions, as well as firing shots into the air in purpose of celebrations.
Yunus, before we close our contact, I would like to ask you, you were just mentioning the participation of Israel and also the declarations made by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Of course, we're closely following as well everything that happens and continues to happen in Gaza, in Lebanon, with the recent ceasefire. How do you think this could impact the region in that scenario?
Well, it is clearly Syria has been part of the axis of resistance. Syria has been crucial for instance, support, political support, military support to Lebanon, to organizations such as Hezbollah, but also to other organizations such as Hamas. Syria has been home to Hamas during years. So the fall of the Assad government will definitely impact the connection between the axis of resistance between Iran and those forces in Lebanon and those forces in Palestine, in Cisjordania. So this is we must admit this is a huge victory for Netanyahu, for Zionism, not only in terms of what happens around the Golan Heights, but also in terms of the unity and integration, infrastructural integration of armament, political integration of the axis of resistance. This is clearly a bad day for the Palestinian resistance in general.
Perfectly clear. Thank you, Yunus, for your input, as usual. Okay, so we continue following the situation. We will continue coming back to this with all the updated information. That was our correspondent in Turkey, Yunus Soner, bringing us the latest and the ongoing situation in Syria, where rebel forces have taken control of the capital, government institutions, and are now in dialogue towards a transition amid chaos and clashes. Although Yunus was just reporting a relative calm in Damascus at the moment. We will continue with this information, and now we continue with From the South.